For months, Pam Bondi refused to brief Congress on the Epstein files, refused to answer questions, refused to meet with survivors, refused to explain why half the files are missing. Today, Republicans subpoenaed her. The Republican chairman, Trump's own party, issued a subpoena to Trump's own attorney general, and within hours, Bondi suddenly wants to talk. Watch what a subpoena does to someone who has something to hide.
Congressman Khanna, it is your law, the bill that you got passed, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, that the Attorney General seems to have violated repeatedly. That presumably would be the center of your questioning if she shows up for this for this questioning.
Absolutely. And Lawrence, the important thing here is it's not Thomas Massie and I writing to Pam Bondi or subpoenaing Pam Bondi. It is Jim Comer, the Republican chair, issuing this subpoena. And there were many Republicans who joined in the vote to subpoena Bondi. That means they are losing confidence in her in complying with the law. Now, she's scrambled. She is coming apparently to our committee tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Behind closed doors to suddenly brief our committee. She hasn't been willing to answer any questions. Now her and Blanche are going to come to brief the committee. So it'll be interesting to see what she says at that briefing.
So was that arranged just because this subpoena was issued?
Certainly seems coincidental. The day the subpoena goes out, we are informed today that Pam Bondi wants to come tomorrow to meet with us. I mean, Thomas Massie and I have been requesting a meeting for months with her and Blanche to be able to protect the survivors. The committee has been requesting a meeting for months. Suddenly, now that she has a threat of a subpoena, she's coming to meet us because she knows that the theatrics won't work at closed doors under deposition. The reality is that she would be asked questions under oath by lawyers, that she would be subject to the penalty of perjury. And that will haunt her long after she's Attorney General. So my sense is she's coming tomorrow to try to diffuse the subpoena, but I doubt that she's going to be able to convince Republicans to have her not comply.
Let me make sure you caught the most important thing in that clip. This subpoena was not issued by Democrats. It was not issued by Jasmine Crockett, not by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not by any member of the opposition. It was issued by Jim Comer, Republican, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Trump's own party, and many Republicans voted for it. That is not a partisan attack. That is members of the president's own party saying, we do not trust that the Attorney General is complying with the law. We do not trust that she is being honest with us. We need to put her under oath. That is a devastating moment for any administration. And here is what happened the moment that subpoena went out. Bondi, who had refused to brief Congress for months, suddenly decided she wants to come talk. Tomorrow. Closed doors. Her and Todd Blanche together. The same Bondi who refused to answer questions at the open hearing, who talked about Merrick Garland when asked to apologize to survivors, who said the client list was on her desk and then said there was no list. Suddenly, the day the subpoena drops, she wants a meeting. A congressman described it perfectly. He said it is the equivalent of getting indicted and immediately trying to plea bargain. That is exactly what this is. Bondi is not coming tomorrow because she suddenly developed a conscience. She is coming because she knows what happens if she sits under oath in a closed-door deposition. She would be asked questions she cannot deflect with Merrick Garland. She would be subject to the penalty of perjury. And those answers, or her refusal to give them, would follow her long after she is no longer Attorney General. She is trying to diffuse the subpoena before it goes further. And the question is, will Republicans let her? Because here is what she needs to answer, not in a voluntary closed-door briefing where she controls the narrative under oath, in a deposition, on the record. Why were 3 witness interview summaries, specifically the ones where a woman accused Donald Trump of sexual assault when she was 13, withheld from the original document release? Why have so many documents been scrubbed to conceal the identities of rich and powerful men whose names survivors provided in their FBI interview forms? Why did she refuse to meet with survivors? Why did she refuse to protect their identities while publishing their names, addresses, and photographs? Why has the client list, which she said was on her desk, never materialized? Those are the questions. Simple, direct, on the record, under oath. That is what she is trying to avoid by showing up voluntarily tomorrow.
So this is breaking news about her reaction to this, to get a subpoena and then say, oh, let me talk. I mean, that is really the equivalent of, getting indicted or something and trying to plea bargain right away. So is the full committee invited into this discussion with her tomorrow?
That's my understanding. And yes, it is quite a breaking news because I just learned about this a few hours ago. My understanding is she's coming closed doors behind the full committee with Blanche, and she wants to brief our committee. We've been asking for this briefing for months, and she has not been willing to give it. And my hope is that Comer is going to pursue her subpoena with the same relentlessness that he pursued the Clintons. The reality is she needs to answer basic questions under oath, questions such as why were 3 of the witness interviews about the woman who accused President Trump of rape when she was 13, why were they withheld? Why have so many of the documents been scrubbed back in March and concealed the identity of rich and powerful men whose survivors have named in the 302 forms? Why did you refuse to meet with the survivors or their lawyers when you were releasing these files? Why did you refuse to take a meeting to protect their identity? There are a lot of questions that we have of her and that she's going to have to answer under oath. And my sense is she doesn't want to do that.
Carson Ro-Khanna, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Let me give you the full picture of what is happening right now. The Epstein Files Transparency Act was passed by Congress. Bipartisan. It required the DOJ to release the Epstein files and to do so with survivor identities protected and perpetrator names disclosed. Bondi's DOJ did the exact opposite. Survivor names, published. Photographs, published. Addresses, published. Jane Doe's protected for decades, exposed. Powerful men's names, redacted. 3 FBI interview summaries, the ones where a woman described Donald Trump sexually assaulting her when she was 13, withheld from the original release. Only released after Congress demanded to see the full manifest of documents and called out what was missing. The client list Bondi said was on her desk, never produced. Half the Epstein files still missing. Not one survivor has met with the Department of Justice. And Todd Blanche, Trump's personal former defense attorney, now the number 2 at DOJ, met alone with Ghislaine Maxwell in a minimum security prison she was ineligible for as a convicted sex offender 2 days before she was transferred there. While Maxwell was simultaneously refusing to cooperate with Congress unless Trump pardoned her. That is the record. And now, with a Republican chairman issuing a subpoena, Bondi wants to have a closed-door conversation tomorrow. Off the record. No oath, no perjury risk. The congressman said it clearly. His hope is that Jim Comer pursues this subpoena with the same relentless focus he brought to investigating the Clintons. Because the questions are simple. Why were the Trump rape accusation interviews withheld? Why were powerful men protected while survivors were exposed? Why has the client list never materialized? Why did Blanche meet alone with Maxwell? Who ordered her transfer to Club Fed? These are not complicated questions. They are not trick questions. They are the questions that the Epstein Files Transparency Act was designed to force into the open. And Bondi has spent months doing everything possible to avoid answering them. Today, Republicans in her own party said enough. They issued a subpoena. And within hours, she was scrambling to come in voluntarily and try to make it go away. That is not the behavior of someone with nothing to hide. That is the behavior of someone who knows exactly what those questions lead to and is desperately trying to control the damage before she has to answer them under oath. The subpoena is for April 14th. The voluntary briefing is tomorrow. Watch what she says. Watch what she does not say. Watch whether Republicans accept her voluntary briefing as a substitute for sworn testimony. Because if they do, if they let her walk in, talk for an hour off the record, and then cancel the deposition, then the cover-up continues. And the survivors who stood in that room, raised their hands, waited for an apology that never came, will keep waiting. Share this video, because April 14th matters. And people need to be paying attention. Subscribe, new video every week. Drop a comment. Do you think Bondi will actually show up for the April 14th deposition under oath? Because everything she has done so far suggests she will do everything possible to avoid it.